Welcome to the chip market, where we help you invest smarter in the world of chips. Well, the semiconductor world just got a massive shakeup. Two of the biggest names in the game, Nvidia and Intel, have just announced a partnership. So today, we're going to break down this $5 billion deal and figure out what it really means for the key players and, of course, for your portfolio. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the deal itself, that $5 billion bet. Then we'll get into the strategy behind it and what it means for AMD, who's feeling the pressure. After that, we'll see if TSMC's dominance is at risk. And finally, we'll give you our take on the winners, losers, and what to expect next. All right, let's jump right in and look at the deal that set all of this in motion. $5 billion. That's the number that sent shockwaves through the industry. Nvidia, the undisputed king of AI, is pouring that cash into its longtime rival, Intel, for about a 4% stake. Now, this isn't just about money. This is a strategic earthquake that could redraw the entire map of the chip industry. But, this is way more than just a simple investment. It's a really deep product development partnership. The goal here is to create these next-gen super chips for both PCs and data centers. And they're going to do it by taking Nvidia's incredible AI accelerators and mashing them up with Intel's x86 CPUs, the processor architecture that pretty much runs the world. The idea is to create these powerful, integrated products that neither of them could build alone. Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand what this deal isn't. Let's be clear, there's no immediate plan for Intel to start making Nvidia's GPUs. Nope. Those are staying right where they are with TSMC for the time being. Intel's big contribution here is its advanced packaging tech. That's basically the high-tech glue that lets you connect different little chiplets together into one super powerful processor. Both CEOs have been crystal clear. This is all about product development, not a big manufacturing shakeup. Which, of course, brings us to the big question, why? Why would a dominant leader like Nvidia throw a lifeline to a rival that's been struggling? Well, the answer seems to be an alliance born out of mutual need and a whole lot of strategic opportunity. When you look at what each side gets, it's pretty clear this is a win-win partnership. For Nvidia, it fills a huge gap. They get access to Intel's powerful x86 CPUs, which makes a lot of customers happy. It also helps them hedge against supply chain risks, especially with so much manufacturing happening over in Taiwan. And for Intel, well, the wins are massive. A $5 billion shot in the arm, a huge vote of confidence in their tech, and a real path back to being a major player in the AI game. And you just can't ignore the politics here. As Aragon Research points out, this whole move lines up perfectly with U.S. policy. Think of things like the CHIPS Act to bring semiconductor manufacturing back home. So yeah, this partnership definitely has some political muscle behind it. It really looks like Nvidia is playing the long game in Washington.
Okay, so let's talk about the first big ripple from this deal. We have to look at the company that's standing right in the crosshairs of this new powerhouse alliance, AMD.
I mean, at first glance, this partnership just screams anti-AMD, right? It targets the exact space where AMD has been gaining so much ground, high-performance CPUs for PCs and data centers. And of course, the market's initial reaction totally reflected that fear. The market's verdict came in fast and loud. Intel's stock shot up 30%, while AMD and TSMC both took a hit. The story was simple. Investors were scared that AMD was about to get squeezed between a newly energized Intel and an even more dominant Nvidia. But after the initial shock wore off, a more level-headed take started to emerge. Analysts, like the ones at Bernstein, began to suggest that maybe the initial hit to sentiment was worse than the actual near-term business impact for AMD. That maybe, just maybe, the market's knee-jerk reaction was a bit overblown.
So you really have to look at both sides of the coin for AMD here. The threat? It's definitely real. Nvidia will probably favor Intel CPUs in its servers, and its special high-speed connection, NVLink, could give them a serious performance advantage. But, and this is a big but, AMD has some major advantages of its own. It owns both CPU and GPU technology, which means it can create tighter, more integrated products than two separate companies trying to work together. And funny enough, this whole deal kind of validates AMD's own super chip strategy, where they already have a head start. All right, next up, we need to talk about the bedrock of the entire industry, TSMC. The big question on everyone's mind is, does this deal actually threaten TSMC's seemingly unbeatable technological lead? This is the fear that sent TSMC's stock down. I mean, Nvidia is their biggest customer, so any hint that they might move their orders over to Intel's foundry is a huge red flag. But Like we've been saying, the details of this deal tell a much more complicated story.
In fact, Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang basically cleared this up himself. He came right out and said that Nvidia's core GPU tech is staying put at TSMC's foundry. This partnership is about using Intel's advanced packaging to connect those TSMC-made Nvidia chiplets to Intel CPUs. So for the foreseeable future, TSMC isn't being replaced. They're still a critical partner.
And when you look at the technology roadmap, you can see the race is on. Intel has a super aggressive plan to catch up with its 18A process by 2025. But TSMC isn't just sitting around. Their 2-nanometer node is already on the way. The key difference here? TSMC has an almost perfect track record of delivering on time. That's something Intel has, really struggled with for the past decade. So while Intel is aiming for a tie, TSMC's lead is the reality right now. Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. It's time to weigh the market hype against the reality on the ground and give you a clear, actionable takeaway for how to navigate this new landscape. So where does this all shake out? Well, when we map out all the possibilities through 2028, what we see as the most likely outcome, the base case, is one where both AMD and TSMC are pretty resilient. For AMD, that probably means they keep gaining server market share, just maybe a little slower than before. And for TSMC, it likely means Intel becomes a second source supplier, but TSMC stays number one. The worst-case scenarios? They're possible, sure, but they would require Intel to execute perfectly and for today's leaders to stumble. And that seems a lot less likely. So that leads us to a pretty clear 3-step playbook for how to position yourself. First, you've got to separate the hype from the reality. The market's initial freakout seems way overblown compared to what's actually going to happen in the short term. Second, focus on the real, durable advantages that both AMD and TSMC still have. And third, and this is key, look at the recent dip in their stock prices, not as a reason to panic, but as a potential opportunity to get into these top-tier companies. So here's our final takeaway for you. We see the recent weakness in AMD and TSMC as an opportunity. AMD is looking attractive given its growth potential, and we think the market is really underestimating just how essential TSMC is. As for Intel, well, that 30% stock surge has already priced in a ton of good news, but the risk that they won't be able to deliver is still incredibly high. Right now, the risk-reward just looks better with the current leaders than it does with the comeback story. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. Can a single deal, even a $5 billion one, really undo years and years of established technological leadership? Is the market getting a little too excited about a comeback story while forgetting just how resilient today's leaders really are? That's the question you need to be asking. Thanks for watching The Chip Market. If you got some value out of this, do us a favor and hit like, share it with someone, and subscribe for more insights to help you invest smarter.